Kantaka Tukashida, Hidaku Shkashka, Tadedu Dopakihana, Kawita on Hippie and Shinsh, Ikche Wichasha, Dakodi Api Hatuan Wayate Ki, Wichayoni Humpy there. Hey, Dohan Wapaha.
We say Miigwech and with much gratitude for the display of tribal flags and the sovereignty that represents.
So in 2023, we studied the mall and we reached out to Minnesotans all over the state to say what should the mall look like, now and in the future? How do you feel about the mall? How can it be more welcoming? We look at the mall as Minnesota's front yard. We heard from Minnesotans, over 14,000 of them, as well as the Minnesota legislature, as well as the CAP board, and we put together recommendations on many phases of the Capitol Mall design framework where we looked at ways to change the Capitol Mall. And so one of the first phases was to plant over 200 trees in the Capitol Mall area, in the upper mall, lower mall. And that was really a focus of Speaker Emeritus Hortman, as well as 18 benches in the upper mall. And then we also heard from Minnesotans that they would like a tribal flag plaza, tribal representation on the Capitol Mall. And out of that, out of the Capitol Mall design framework, we started designing a tribal flag plaza.
That recognition and that acknowledgement is important for greater Minnesota, for everyone to understand our shared past and our shared future. And when I think about our tribal flags, I often think about my daughters. I have 3 young daughters. And so for our children to see that the state of Minnesota has just as much respect for our tribal flags as we do for the Minnesota state flag, which is now much more welcoming and inclusive as well, is incredibly important. Our children deserve to see and know that their tribal flags are held just as high in esteem as the other flags that are here at the state capitol.
Our mission at the Department of Administration is delivering excellent services regardless of the obstacles. So a couple of the obstacles and challenges in this particular project were both the construction and the weather. Challenge is also the history and archaeology of this area. A lot of folks don't know that this entire Capitol complex before the Capitol was here were neighborhoods. So right below us, there's history and archaeology. So we had to balance getting the project done on time, on budget. That's always our goal, but also honoring the history here on the complex. And so the archaeology was another consideration.
There were churches, houses, and tenement buildings here in the past. And a lot of those were torn down in the 50s when the mall was established in its current condition. And so through the construction, we were finding foundations. So we had to come up with creative design solutions to limit the disturbance of those foundations because there's historic significance to them. So we came up with a shallower foundation design, and that allowed us to limit that interference. And so that was an interesting creative design solution.
Obviously, the plants all came directly from local vendors. The soils came from, actually, one of the tribes has a soil manufacturing, so we got soils from some of the tribes, and so everything was kind of centered around that idea of sourcing it correctly and being able to utilize those.
And so we'll see sage and sweetgrass and pine trees and Minnesota source granite. All of these things are very Minnesotan and speak to the relationship that we have with the land, which is also a really vital representation to have here.
the coolest feature I think as far as sustainable is the benches. So it might seem like a small piece when you're just walking by, but each one of those benches weighs over 4,000 pounds, and they're stone, they're solid stone. So they have no maintenance, and they just, there's nothing the state has to do to keep them up, but they sit there and they look beautiful and they match the rest of the stone on the project.
One of the things that I find fascinating, and I remember all the way back through beginning of my career, is when you have trees and plants put in and you see the first bird come and land on the plant or a tree, and you're like, wow, that's going to be there for 50, 100 years. And it's amazing that is very, it touches your soul. So it's very important to us.
The Flag Plaza exists as it is due to the work the state government and this administration has done since 2019, respecting tribes, both their boundaries, their understanding their inherent right to sovereignty, and also understanding the cultural history around that specifically Dakota people have existed here for thousands of years.
For generations, our ancestors carried the vision that our sovereignty would be seen, respected, and honored. With these flags now flying permanently on these grounds, that vision is affirmed.
Minnesota is a great state. We've added much, but great states are able to talk about their entire history. They're able to talk about the sorrow and the pain and the mistakes that they've made. And I think many standing here today understand that. And while we can't change the past, we who are living in the present and are in positions to do something about it certainly can change the present and the future. And that's what today is about.
Being here today is not just an event. It is a moment of reflection, recognition, and responsibility, a shared responsibility. May this plaza and the flags that rise above it serve as a lasting reminder that tribal nations are not in the past. They are leaders in the present and vital to our collective future, a symbol of sovereignty, a promise of partnership, humanity, for the ancestors who dreamed of this day, elders and future generations who will carry that dream forward, and for all of the children who come to their house. I could not have imagined this as a kid who came here on a field trip many, many years ago. But now all children can see these flags on the plaza. To know that we are still here, we have always been here, we will remain here in partnership with the state of Minnesota. Chimigwech Pidamiaye for everyone who made this possible. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.